All right, everybody, that was Jeff Pitchell's Fat Cigars that you were just listening to, and that means it's time for Not Just Blowing Smoke. Coming at you live from Twin Smoke Shop studio headquarters here in Londonderry, New Hampshire, right in the 724 Lounge. If you are streaming live on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you are listening after the fact on Podbean, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, wherever else you may get this podcast from, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't ever miss a thing. I'm Pastor Padron. I'm here with my co-hosts, Pat, Dave, and we have these two lovely ladies with us tonight. Debris from the 724 Lounge.
Hola.
And Tequila Talia.
Woo!
Who is one of the liquor reps that we work with here at Twins. She is a regular on the show, loves her cigars, loves her pipes, and loves her tequila. And
too.
Irish whiskey. Irish whiskey is a big thing for her. And with St. Patrick's Day coming up, you see a lot of things coming out for St. Patrick's Day on both fronts, whiskey
Of course.
and cigars. And the cigar we're smoking today is one of those things. This is the Alec Bradley Black Market Filthy Hooligan. It is an annual release by Alec Bradley. It's a Toro 6x50, and it's a barber pole. It's a barber pulled cigar. The barber pole wrapper, which, you know, you can see why they call it the barber pole, because it's striped like that going down. If you're listening, you're just going to have to take my word for it. There's stripes on the cigar because there's two wrappers, a Nicaraguan Habano, which is a nice dark kind of a medium coffee brown, and a Honduran Candela, which is, you know, a nice kind of green, which is, you know, St. Patrick's Day. There you go. Ecuadorian Sumatra binder, Panama and Honduran filler. Panama, you don't see that very often.
Panama.
And again, it's a 6x50. Talia, what did you brought the drink tonight? You brought the Irish whiskey here. You want to talk a little bit about it?
I did, sure. So I brought a special edition of the Redbreast Irish whiskey. So I think we've done the 12-year on the show before.
Yes. Yep.
So now this is the Lustau edition. So it's non-age
Lustau.
statement.
Lustau. What does Lustau mean?
So actually,
Anything?
it's the Bodega Lustau is a winery in southern Spain.
Oh, okay.
The bodega.
Redbreast has always been known, so it's a
So
single
it's an
pot
Irish
still.
whiskey that's named after a Spanish something or other?
Well, I mean, you know, if you let me finish my story, no.
Oh! Whoa!
Tired.
So the
Bang.
reason it's called Lustau is just they partnered with the distillery.
Yeah.
So they're using the distiller or not the winery rather.
Mm-hmm.
They're using their Oloroso sherry casks. So Oloroso sherry is supposedly, you know, the finest sherry to come out of Spain.
The finest.
The finest,
Sherry. That's that in quotes.
That's right. It is nutty and kind of caramelly, which makes it a little bit different from that like fruit forward sherry. So what Redbreast does is they just finish off their single pot still whiskey in the Oloroso's sherry casks. So it kind of gets this like distinct like nutty sweetness to it at the finish. So it's a little bit sweeter than the 12-year.
It's definitely got a little bit more sweetness to it. Have you
Oh,
tried any, Brie?
man, it is so smooth.
It's really,
Yeah, it's
really
very smooth. It's got a very, it's like a thick.
Very
kind of-
viscous.
I knew
finish
you were
on
gonna.
it.
There's that word I was waiting for.
Yeah, that's scary. Viscous. It's got viscosity.
Not to be confused with oily.
No,
Not
No,
to be
not
confused.
oily.
No.
no, but it is. There is a very thick
Wow.
finish on your tongue. I'm not going to say the B word.
Brazilian.
Yeah. Verdant, which also means green. Pat, are you going to stare at the cigar, or are you going to talk about what you're tasting?
Do you want me to talk about what I'm tasting and ask me it?
Pat, what are
Well,
you tasting?
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome,
You
Pat.
should be the new host. It's really good. I honestly, full disclosure, I'm a huge Candela guy. Typically, a lot of people I feel don't appreciate Candela, but even the black market blend as a whole, I'm a big fan of. Like Panama Tobacco to me is like a really like savory kind of salty musique to it.
Salty Mazik?
Yeah, and then it
What's-
has a
what
little
is
bit.
Mazik?
It's like
Like it's a
very
legitimate question. Pat.
refined and like well balanced like
Okay.
aroma.
Mhm.
And it has like a little subtle anise to it, and it's really underutilized tobacco. I mean, like the black market, I think, what number was it on Cigar Aficionado's list? It was there somewhere, the Churchill, I think. It was in like the
Yeah,
top 10, I
It was
believe.
in the top. Yeah.
And then obviously Rocky Patel's Edge, which got him on the market, has Panama fillers in it as well. So it's a really, really good tobacco. And then, so overall profile, you're getting that nice like Habano, like that kind of like spicy, kind of creamy texture you typically get of Habano. It's a Maduro, so you get like that kind of sweet, kind of chocolatey espresso to it. And then the Candela just kind of tops off. Like for me, typically Candela gives me a really grassy kind of doughy profile to it. So you kind of add, you have like the black market, like kind of the staple flavors you look for in that cigar, and then it just adds a little bit of complexity kind of on your palate, then a little bit on the finish with that kind of grass and that hay. It's only a little bit of the wrapper that you're smoking at a time. So, I mean, next week, if we end up smoking the Aladino Candela, I'm sure it's going to be a lot more of a Candela forward cigar, but I think this one's very well balanced, and I'm a big fan of it.
We'll have to see about that because the Candela, as far as if I understand it correctly, is a Candela of the African Sumatra, or not the African Sumatra, but the Honduran Sumatra.
Honduras, Sumatra. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's
what's
gonna be a
interesting?
very different
What's interesting to
tastings.
me is that the information on this is it is a Honduran Candela, which makes me wonder, where they might be getting their tobacco from, and if they're following a similar process. I have no information on that, and to the best of my knowledge, Aladino does not sell its tobacco outside, and they grow almost everything themselves. So I suspect that cigar is going to be its own unique kind of thing.
That's why I'm excited for it,
Yeah.
because it's going to be very unique. Yeah.
Bree, what are you picking up on the cigar and the Lustau?
Definitely. Oh, I'm enjoying it so far overall. Like I almost didn't even think about what I was picking up because I was just like, this is really good. But from the cigar itself, I'm not getting a ton of any kind of spice really. I am getting a lot of that young earth. The retrohale is
Young Earth.
yes, not like
old
old
earth,
musty
like before
like-
Christ Earth.
yeah,
No
but
Lord of the,
it's
there's
the
no Lord of the
beefier.
Rings in this one.
Like this is like the dirt that you freshly bury a body in. You know? But yeah, no.
That makes me want to go out and
Words of
right away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Words of experience.
Wow.
Plant vegetables, berry bodies, whatever. Fresh
whatever.
dirt.
At least I thought by young Earth you were meaning, the Earth is only, like 8,000 years old or something. One of those really super conservative Baptist
BC,
things.
you know?
Yeah.
Yep. Before Christ.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean
Before Candela.
it's
It's
been a while since I've had a Candela too. But I remember enjoying the last Candela I had, but also feeling like I wish that it had more oomph behind it. So I think this is kind of measuring up on where like it's not going to give you that like spicy kick, but it does
Right.
kind of make that intense earthiness from some of the Candelas I've had in the past kind of subdue into a more refined experience.
What do you think of the whiskey?
I'm extremely impressed with the whiskey. Again, it's matching up with the cigar because there's not like that typical like whiskey burn to it, that kick that you get when you take the first sip.
No,
So
not at all.
that's very true to, I guess, the Irish style of whiskey, but it also has a complexity underneath it, where I can get that like sweet note from the Oloroso cask, and I think it's complementing the cigar very well so far. It's just enjoyable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I drink it, it's like it's like a different taste, and it's gonna.
I think the
Which
whiskey
means to me
tastes
in my
very different from
unrefined
the cigar,
palate
yeah.
that it's very complex. because I can't separate anything. So I can't wait to hear what Pat's gonna say, because when Pat says it, I'm like, yeah, you know. But I can't even describe it right now. I just know I like it, and it's really good. It's
The
really
whiskey,
creamy.
you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or are
The
you talking
Lustau.
about the cigar?
The Lustau.
The Lustau.
The Lustau.
Pat, have you had any of the Lustau yet?
I started sipping it. Just give me a moment.
Okay.
Swish around the mouth a little.
Wish I-
Swisher. Swisher sweet. Sweet Swisher.
Well, Pat's
Poor
eyes are
Alice
going from
Anita.
side to side, so you know things are working. We might need to take a commercial break.
It has like a, to me, without really kind of sitting and thinking about it, the first thing that came to my mind on the palate was charcoal. Maybe that's like bad. That's what I'm getting, charcoal on the palate. Then it has kind of like the citrus note to it. And then on the finish, it's like a kind of a banana, like a savory kind of
I
banana.
can see that.
See that?
Yeah.
That's just amazing.
I get that on the nose. I can get like a banana kind of sweetness.
Because I totally
It's
get
like
what you're
that
saying.
tarty
Charcoal.
kind of sweetness, right? Like
It's like that chalky charcoal. Yeah, I totally get it. Yep. That's
Banana. That's
So,
perfect.
yeah, it is.
That's
Banana.
it. That's what it is.
Banana.
And then it adds
Deadpool
a
would be
citrus. It doesn't change the cigar too much, but on the finish, it kind of adds a citrus with that grass note.
Oh, I think the sweetness of the whiskey too goes
Totally.
with the Candela
Yep.
and brings
Yep,
out
the
some more of the
sweetness.
sweetness of
Yep.
that. There is a natural sweetness to that.
I was so worried about this pairing. Before
Well,
the
I
show.
mean, I was
'Cause
worried
I was
too
just like-
because this wasn't the pairing
didn't
that we
test
had.
it out.
I'm like, oh,
We didn't test it out.
you know,
Talia
I'm like,
and I got together
let's have a
week
cigar
or
that
so
we-
ago, and because we wanted to make sure that we were going to have a really good pairing. This is an awesome whiskey, and we didn't want whatever we were smoking to end up making it suck. So,
or vice versa.
and then at the last minute things had to change, but this is turning out pretty well.
Yeah, I would, for a cigar that was meant to be paired with Guinness, this is surprisingly delicious.
The first joke I made to you. What are we pairing with it? Guinness?
And I will say,
Actually.
This would go with Guinness.
I had it with a Guinness actually. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I will say though, we'll probably talk more about it next week if the
Banana.
Aladino comes in time.
Yep.
But I always used to say like Candela is like one of the more beautiful wrappers to me. Like if you just feel it, it's like the silkiest, smoothest wrapper, and just the way that it looks, like no bumps.
That's
it's
because
just so
it
smooth,
hasn't
like-
had the life drained out.
Yeah,
of it.
like it's like I know the chlorophyll's in there still, it gives you that color, but it's I always loved how Candela looks, and
it looks velvety.
like the
does.
room note to a Candela cigar, like it gives you it's like it's weird, like it's like hay and then like freshly shredded wood. It's weird, like it's a really nice room note.
It's a pleasant barnyard. You know what I mean? It's like not the nasty barnyard. It's like
The farm fresh.
farm fresh. Yeah,
Farm fresh barnyard,
farm fresh barnyard.
as opposed to
Yeah,
old
where
barnyard. It's fresh
It
barnyard.
hasn't been used yet.
It's like walking through your pappy's barnyard on a warm
Talia's
Sunday.
going, I just don't believe these are the words they're using.
It's better than saying a fresh dirt from a buried body.
Pat, that's before you bury the body.
Oh, my bad.
Just the whole.
Yeah, wow. Now, like we said, this cigar comes out every year, once a year, right around St. Patrick's Day, end of February, beginning of March. And this is a very sought after cigar. We start getting people asking for Candelas or the Filthy Hooligan or
3
their
months
other
before
one,
and
the
3 months
Shamrock, before they come out. I have this year already. So these are doing really, they're not sitting around. I mean, we're more than halfway through what we ordered, which was not a small amount of stuff. But it kind of, it's interesting to me that we've got this, great cigar that comes out. Alec Bradley fans and fans of Candela look forward to it every year. But this isn't the only reason that Alec Bradley is like in the news right now. The other reason is they just got bought. They just got bought by
Alec and Bradley
Scandinavian
are very happy people.
Tobacco Group. And yeah, the owners, are significantly wealthier now as of today. But I feel like we should talk a little bit about that. Pat, you want to tell us, as our resident legal person, about said purchase and what it may mean for Alec Bradley?
Yeah, it's more of a kind of a business thing than a legal thing, but it was a acquisition from Scandinavian Tobacco Group. To my knowledge, they're the only publicly traded company in the industry. To my knowledge, I know they're
Scandinavian Tobacco
yep,
Group.
I know they're based out of Norway. And they acquired Alec Bradley. It got finalized today, and it was mentioned at the first day of the TPE trade show for $72.5 million, which,
That doesn't suck.
when it comes to Alec Bradley, it's essentially several dozen SKUs. They don't have any
They don't have factories. They don't
factories
have
or anything like that. And then their headquarters in Miami, Florida, actually wasn't
72
included
SKUs.
in the deal.
Hmm.
So it solely was like
The
the
SKUs.
FDA approved SKUs. And I know that Scandinavian Tobacco Group is a shareholder. They have some principal with Placencia, and Placencia is one of the prime factories that does a lot of Alec Bradley stuff. So really, and it's kind of an interesting story with Alec Bradley too, because Alan Rubin is the creator of Alec Bradley, and then he named the company after both of his sons, which then later went into the cigar industry. And he left it was like a cabinet enclosure business, and then he started doing Alec Bradley cigars, and then he brought a gentleman in with him. I forget what his name was.
Can we backtrack for a second and explain what a cabinet enclosure business
It's like, I think they made cabinets, and if you had like you did
Oh,
something with
literally, they
cabinets.
made.
Yeah.
Okay. I
So
thought that was like a business terminology.
so it's really kind of a unique story that he just made this company without owning any really assets, and he ended up turning it around to a $72.5 million deal. So and
It's
then
not a bad 20 years.
and
ago.
a lot of
SKUs,
a
right?
lot of
It's not
cigar
bad.
companies,
You don't
like
learn
the smaller
anything but
companies, they usually go out of business before they're acquired anywhere. So it's really like, there's going to be people down the road that say sellouts or whatever it is, like you're diehard Alec Bradley fans, but like honestly, like hats off to Alan Rubin for what he did. But when it comes to the cigars, a lot of it's conspiracy. Like no one really knows what's going to happen yet. I don't believe Alec Bradley's even come out and commented on the acquisition yet.
Nothing official.
And it's really, look at like Scandinavian Tobacco Group has like the forward to 2025 incentive, so they have like this big plan. I think this is the 6th or 7th company that they've acquired, notably like Peterson Tobacco,
Yep.
Thompson Cigars. So they've been acquiring a lot, and like a lot of people look at it like they're trying to take over the industry. Whatever. But so Alec Bradley, I think a big part of why they did it was, like under Scandinavian Tobacco, they have General and Forged. I would list off the lines that they represent. Like I know, like Room 101 got acquired in the beginning of or the end of last year, middle of last year, around PCA, I believe. And that's under the Forged banner. So it's kind of a unique kind of business model because you own Forged in general, but they're both competing companies within a company.
Right.
So you kind of grow yourself that way. And I think getting Alec Bradley I don't think General really needs more factories. They just want competitive SKUs. And Alec Bradley, I think it was $20 million in sales last year, or some number around there. So it does fairly well for itself with,
Yeah.
outsourcing all the work. And
I've got the Half Wheel article up, and there's a quote from Scandinavian Tobacco Group. So this is from their official release. It says the acquisition of the Alec Bradley cigar business is another important step toward our ambition of becoming the undisputed and sustainable global leader in cigars, said Niels Fredriksson, who is the STG CEO, in a press release. And then continuing on, quote, through this bolt-on acquisition, we will expand our portfolio of highly regarded premium cigars in the U.S. and international markets, delivering material value to our shareholders. We will also leverage the Alec Bradley portfolio to deliver increased excitement, to the handmade cigar category through product innovation and brand activations, benefiting both the cigar enthusiasts and our trade partners. So they are saying they are wanting to be the undisputed global leader in
Hand-rolled cigars. Yeah.
hand-rolled cigars.
And the interesting thing with Scandinavian Tobacco Group is their business model, their incentive is to increase their shares, right? So most companies, like your traditional family-owned companies, like obviously it's for the profit, it's for the cigars. So here it's like your incentive, it really is the shares. So acquiring Alec Bradley, I'm sure, is an incentive to boost those shares. And again, like, from a business standpoint, it's not a bad idea because you have the means to produce these cigars, and now you're just getting another notable SKU. Like Room 101, for instance, was
Right.
a notable SKU, and you know, from what I've been experiencing with them and from what I've heard, like they're doing fairly well. You know, Matt Booth is still involved in the industry; he's still a face. I think he's the only brand from Forge that's going to the trade shows. To mine, Bree was just at TPE, so maybe she can attest to that, but. You know, so it's doing fairly well, and I honestly think that Alec Bradley is going to go under the Forged banner because, I mean, under General you have like the Cohibas, the Punches, like you have some pretty big players, so I think it's going to go under Forged and kind of give them that kind of oomph. So, and you know, as a consumer, I honestly don't think there's anything to worry about. The cigars, like they want to make money off of them. I don't think they're going to do anything atrocious to the brands. You know, a lot of the Room 101 diehards swear that something's changed, but it's, to my knowledge, the same tobacco, and Matt Booth's still blending, and it's, you know, so I don't think it's going to be anything detrimental to the brand, but, you know, obviously, you just look at the bigger picture, and it's, you know, like they're consuming all these, and I honestly think before the year is over, they're going to probably acquire another brand, you know, whether it's factories or another just brand like Alec Bradley. I think that they're going to probably do something else, but so it definitely is. Like, I'm curious to see what Alec Bradley says about it, and I'm curious to see kind of what comes forward, you know, like I'm sure the Filthy Hooligan's going to be out next year.
Yeah, right. I don't think they're gonna. There's a reason why they bought the SKUs to expand. They're not gonna just stop it. You know, they know what's making the money.
Yeah.
So, are we going to debrief debris on the TBE?
That's
I think I would
probably
be
a
the
very
debris
good
that's
idea.
doing the debriefing, just
Yes.
to clarify.
Yes.
So tell us about your experience. This was the first time exhibiting for 724 there?
Yes, it was. I think a lot of the cigar people kind of had a similar feeling about it, where it was definitely exciting. The room felt very full because pretty much with TPE, it's now Total Products Expo. So not only do you have cigar people, but you also have people from the other side of the tobacco industry, which is like, you know, vape products, the new industry that's going towards like CBD and like the more, I'd say, alternative, like hemp and tobacco products that are becoming available and popular. So you kind of run into that on the cigar side. You know, everyone there is familiar with each other, trying to network. You know, you're trying to talk to more retailers and shops, but you're also getting people that are from the other side that are just kind of curious about cigars, curious about, you know, just what's different. And also you got the people that are just looking to get samples. So it was
hear
kind of
you came
unique.
back with a big
Yeah.
load.
dog walkers.
Yes, Kurt was like, Bree, watch all of these sticky fingers. But
Did you have to pay a lot of extra money to bring stuff home?
honestly, it all fit into one suitcase. All of the
Did you
the
leave your
boxes
clothes
and
there?
samples. I only had to bring one bottle of Herradura, and yeah, that my suitcase was graced. But yeah, no, it was interesting. I think this is definitely a more highly funded trade show just because of that other side. You saw people at the vape booths that had, you know, like promo girls, like face paint, like all of these different eye-catching activities.
girls and
The
face paint.
people watching was phenomenal, I will say.
Have you been to big trade shows? Talia?
Just like the Distiller Showcase in Manchester is probably in the U.S.
Do
the
they
biggest
have
one I went
like
to.
show babes there?
Oh yeah.
Are they all made up and everything and doing face paint?
No face painting.
They got
Definitely
tattoos.
not.
There was like a guy playing
Walking
guitar
around with little
live in
angel
front
We
of
all
me.
got tattoos, baby.
Like literally, he looked like Slash, and he had an electric guitar, and he was standing in front of one of the vape booths, like just playing.
Well, you guys went to the distiller showcase this year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There was like bands this year as well in front of a couple of the booths, and I was like, "What is
It was
happening?"
interesting. Like like this was a completely different animal though. Still,
Oh,
this
I can
wasn't
only
like
imagine,
any
yeah.
trade show I'd ever been to before. Like, because you're combining like almost like
Several
half of
different
PCA
industries,
with-
really.
It's open to the
Yeah.
public too, right?
Kind of complicated. It's like some of our brokers were under the assumption that because in the past, with PCA, it's like you have media, you have people that are brokers that are under a certain brand, and they go like not with your brand, but as like under your brand. So with this, I guess it's like somewhat astronomical to go as like an attendee. But even as an attendee, like for the most part, if you were approaching booths, they would ask you if you were like a retailer because while on one hand they want to market their product and push it out to consumers, it was also like they didn't want to just give away stuff unless you were like a retailer looking to carry or unless you were media looking to
So you
promote
were
the
like,
brand.
yes to both.
Although, yeah, it's interesting because we were there at 724. And I, to my knowledge, Kurt has no intention of bringing any vape products into Twin Smoke Shop. So,
But you loaded up?
yeah.
But we will try.
For
We
my
will
friends,
try.
For my friends.
Oh,
they,
for
you know,
friends,
they
friends.
vape.
Friends and family, yes. Yeah.
But,
Yep.
yeah. It was overall good, though. We still got to talk to some new accounts and recap with some people that we'd spoken to at PCA. And,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's cool. Now, I know one of the people you were with there was Kaz and
Yes.
the people at
Our pipe
Cornell
friends.
and Deal and Loud DC, and they're making tobacco for us and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great lead into what's happening at Twins. The next big event is the PD Blinders Peterson Pipe event, which is happening
Sure will
on
be.
the 11th of March, 12 to 4 here at the Londonderry location. And Talia is also going to be at that event and featuring another Redbreast at
That's
that. You want
right.
to talk a little bit about
Another
that one?
red breast?
Yeah, the one we're doing is the cask strength. So while this one is still a little high, this one is 96 proof, which is a little higher than usual.
Ouch.
I know, and you
can't
never,
even
you
taste
would
it.
never,
Holy-
I know,
I
you
would have said
never
like
know.
40 or
Yeah.
50 or
Never
something
know.
like that. Wow. That's crazy.
The cask strength's a little stronger. They take that right out of the cask. They don't dilute it with the water, so it's nice and strong for you. But it's, again, with the Redbreast and you have the single pot still whiskey, it's smooth.
It's like
So no matter
116.
how strong it is, it's still going to be smooth. And it's still going to be flavorful,
I'm calling sick on that day. So I
Hear
can
that?
go.
We're also doing...
When you call in sick and then show up at the other Twins,
All right.
where your boss is, you can't do that day. It won't work.
The mask.
It won't work.
I'll wear a wig.
Who's running
There you
late
go.
Could be
now?
done.
just shave this time.
Just
Shave this time, right?
He'll come and drag.
Yeah, you just look back at our history a couple of years ago, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Wow, that was a couple years ago now, wasn't it? Wow.
Yes.
No,
yes.
we're overdue.
Oh my. We
But
are.
that's going to be awesome. You join the PD Blinders for $30, and that gets you into the PD Blinders Speakeasy, where there will be the Redbreast cask strength, as well as tastings of a Jameson Black Barrel. There's also going to be Jameson Stout cask to make Irish coffees with, which is fantastic. And
What
there's
day
going
is
to be. It's Saturday. It's Saturday, March 11th.
Oh, yeah. When
12
I'm
to 4.
working. Yep.
When you're working, exactly. We do these on purpose.
Oh.
And then there'll be we'll be able to pair that with Brown Irish and Black Irish X and Whiskey Twist. And Kaz is
Red Eye Ben
also
on Sunday.
sent along some Nutty Irishman and some other Irish themed tobaccos. So there's going to be like 6 different tobaccos you can choose to pair with these things, and it's going to be awesome. And then, this is obviously, it's kind of a play off of the Peaky Blinders. So everyone's coming dressed up with their flat caps and suits and whatever, and there'll be prizes for the best dressed, the most green, and for the best flat cap. And that's going to be a lot of fun.
Did we talk to Kaz about dressing up as a leprechaun yet?
No,
I feel like we should.
No, we should tell Sean
he
that.
probably has something.
Both of them.
Yes.
Probably has something. Kaz has very interesting suits.
Oh, I learned that at TPE this year.
Yes.
It was fascinating.
Visually?
He said and I repeat and I quote, "You only like me for my suit."
Nice.
Yeah.
I think his accent will throw off the whole leprechaun deal.
Right, but he can fake it.
There you
He
go.
makes it.
But that's going to be a lot of fun. And then, $30 gets you into being a PD blinder and gets you the drinks and the pairings and everything. If you turn around and you buy a Peterson pipe at the event, there's going to be lots of Peterson pipes at the event. I had hoped that there would be actual St. Patrick's Day pipes, but they've already sold out. They've already sold out, so there won't be any of those. However, there's going to be a great selection of stuff, including a series of pipes I just found out today that isn't even being released until the 13th. So we will be one of the first places in the country. These pipes are available.
Real St. Patty's Day pipe.
And, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a good time. Again, Talia and I will both be there. Kaz will be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's what's coming up at Twins. Is this cigar changing for any of you, or is it staying the same?
It's so different with the pairing than by itself.
How has it changed with the pairing?
Like usually
Pretty big.
you get like by itself, you get like the earthiness and the grass notes from the Candela. And it's just like, okay, with the drink, it's like so sweet. The retro hill is so smooth. The
Yes.
grassy notes are more citrusy instead of grassy. And I feel like the pairing with the redbreast is just amazing. It's so good.
Do you concur?
This is honestly one of my favorite pairings of the year already.
Really?
I do concur. I mean, it's not building in intensity, but it's building in complexity, if that makes any sense. Like,
It does, sure.
it's warming up. I think the flavors are kind of melting together at this point. And it's creating this this sweeter room note almost. And I'd say like what's consistent is how it's interacting with the whiskey. They're both blending together really well. Like
Yeah.
The earth is changing from more of that young earth that we talked about.
More of
You
that
know, maybe,
freshly tilled, get ready for grave robbing earth.
Yeah.
Grave robbed 5,000 years ago, Earth. Egyptian Earth.
You know,
Egyptian.
Yeah, sprinkle some of those citrus seeds into the soil.
Pat, how about you? Is the cigar changing for you? Is the pairing really ramping things up? I think before you had said it really wasn't affecting the cigar for you that much.
Yeah, I mean the cigar itself, from my experience smoking it, it's a pretty consistent cigar, which is a good thing. It doesn't have many transitions, but it's a very solid profile. Like the back third of it doesn't heat up too much. I do think the Candela speaks a little bit more on the back third, but the drink to me is bringing out more of the Candela. And thank you.
Oh, of course. I saw we needed some refills.
So like
Hello.
and when I said charcoal, it's not a bad thing. It's like
No.
this
I
It was
earthy
a perfect
kind of
description.
chalky
No.
kind of profile to it, and then like when it mixes with a cigar, it's a Honduran Candela. So I wish more companies disclose what the actual Candela was. So it's typically Honduran tobacco has more of a raw earth kind of flavor. That's why a lot of people say you either hate or love Honduran tobacco. So that kind of
Candela
gritty,
tobacco.
well, Honduran. So Candela is another mix on it, but Honduran at its core is very raw earth. So when you make that a
okay, so-
Candela,
okay,
you
I
have
didn't-
that
yeah.
earth, that grass, that little bit of citrus. So
You got it.
the red breast
We'll finish
is bringing that forward, but like that
Yeah.
kind of charcoal earthy note, I think really
Sláinte.
complementing the Honduran tobacco, and then obviously that's the Candela, so that's bringing that forward on my palate. So even though this is like a black market cigar with the Candela on it, it seems like the Candela is kind of the focal point of the blend with the Redbreast. So long answer to the short question.
That's what she said.
That's not. That's often what she said in my book. They always give long answers to the question there.
So my question would be,
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking earlier about how this is like every year we're asked about this cigar and other, green type cigars. Like, is that because people like Candela and it's the only excuse during the year they can get them? Or is it merely a gimmick and it looks good
Yeah,
for
any
Guinness
blondie
pairings
Candelas?
and pictures and all that?
I feel like
Well-
you could ask the same about any barber pole too, right? In a sense.
Yeah, but even like, I bet when the Aladinos come in, that's going to be a big, it's going
Oh
to,
my gosh.
whether or not
That's
it's
going to be a shocker.
But if the cigar is good or bad, but it's going to be something that pushes because it's St. Patrick's Day. And then after the fact, if it's a good cigar, it's going to keep going, obviously. But
Right.
I think in this time of year, a lot of people are looking for that Candela for St. Patrick's Day. So I'm curious if
People
you
are just
guys
looking
think.
for green. They don't even think
Well, that's
they're
what I'm
looking for
saying.
Candela. They're just
So-
they're going to be like, wow.
So I'm curious if there's actually
Wanna
a
see.
market for Candela and people are like buying them because they finally can get it, or if it's just merely an aesthetic thing.
I would say that probably like pull it out of my butt here and say like majority
Okay,
of cigars,
Dave.
cigar smokers just don't even know what Candela is.
Because, like, from the Alec Bradley advertisement, like, their marketing for the Dirty Hooligan, like, every year, they make sure they put the year on the box. It's like the box itself is a collection piece, right? Like, every year you want to get that box, and then, like, the Shamrock, which is a triple Barber pole, which is the other offering Alec Bradley does this time of year, is a 10 count box, and that's historically the cigar people are looking for is the Shamrock, and then the black market's another twist on the Candela, and it's a 25 count box.
It's a 20 count box.
20 count box.
Yep.
But they're both yeared, so the marketing for it is more of a collector's thing as well. So I'm curious if people are buying this cigar because it's this collector's thing every year, like diehard Alec Bradley guys, or if it's because they actually enjoy Candela.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There are Candelas that are permanently out on the market. Illusione makes a Candela 888.
Fuente does.
Fuente makes their Candela 858 on a regular basis. Routinely, Roma Craft produces the Fomorian somewhere in the fall, and that is also a straight Candela cigar.
And then Espinosa's doing the wasabi, Candela Lancero.
I think Aladino is going to help bring out the Candela as a as more of like a I don't know. I feel like the market for Candela is kind of like negative, and I feel like if the Aladino does well, it's going to bring out more for everybody else.
Yeah. Back in the 60s and 70s, Candela was huge. It was what was smoked by everybody. JFK, what he smoked, you can't really tell because all the pictures are black and white,
right?
but they were Candela cigars. And you've all heard of English Market Selection, right? EMS,
Yep.
which is the Connecticut brand stuff. When Candela was hot in the 60s and 70s, it was American Market Selection. That's what was huge in the American market was the Candela.
Wow.
And so you have the AMS and the EMS.
We're bringing Candela back.
Yeah.
And the Maduro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't scroll the wheel. Scroll the big the little thing underneath the wheel.
My thumbs
Scroll the
are
big
fat.
wheel.
My
Your thumbs are fat.
That's what you said.
You've got fat
Is it?
thumbs.
I do.
Look at that.
Wow.
See?
He's like, the OG
Pastor Padron.
caveman.
Don't
making
feel
fire.
bad, Brie. Every time he makes me use that lighter, I'm like,
The
can you just
struggle
do it
is
for
on.
me?
Like, come on.
Why can't
That's
you
why I
just
like
push a
carrying
button?
it. Why do you think they're a torch? My God.
Is it wrong to say, like, I kind of feel like the Candela is almost like the Lancero of, like, tobaccos?
Yeah.
Like-
See. Yeah. I totally agree with that statement.
No, it's a weird
Absolutely.
thing is like typically, and it even goes through a marketing thing too. Like I know like when Steve Saka made the Sin Compromiso, a big critique was he had a green band on it. You know, because for whatever reason, when you correlate tobacco, green is, well, I know the reason why, but green's a negative thing because typically that's
Yeah.
under
People see
fermented
green
tobacco.
spots. You know, it's like
Yeah,
"Oh,
so
that's ugly."
you know, and that's just the chlorophyll. You know, it's a sign of improper fermentation. So green's a pretty negative thing in the industry today. But it's, you know, to Dan's point, green used to be everything back then. You know, like
Right.
everyone was looking for green, like the Candelas, and nowadays it's like you could have a little green spot on like a, you know, Connecticut shade cigar, and it's like,
People
oh, this
freak
company
out.
sucks. Yeah, like, this
Yeah.
wasn't fermented correctly.
But if you talk to the people who like, you know, blend them, they'd be looking for those cigars to smoke because that's going to add like, you know, they love those.
And then like
Yes,
typically-
Love
Good
those.
And I think the unfortunate thing
I'm
today with me,
Green
again,
spot.
like
So
it's taste
Well,
is very.
who said that?
I have no idea.
It was either Saka or it was
Green spots?
yeah, who was like excited to smoke those kinds of cigars when like he doesn't look at them as imperfections. I think it might have even been
I know Carlito
Perdomo.
Fuentes commented on it.
but no,
What?
someone that we had on the show.
Ah.
It's been vindicated.
But like
It's been vindicated.
There's an Irish whiskey called Green Spot. We should
I was
smoke.
gonna say green spot with the green
That's
spot.
pretty
huh?
good, right?
Yep.
but to me, like, you know, being a cigar guy, you know, I'll try everything. Like I really appreciate Candela, and it's something that I wish I could get in a consumer's hand more often, especially when you look at, you know, our lounge and different pairing opportunities like the red breast here, for instance. Like there's so many different combinations you can do with a Candela, and it really, like, when it comes to Candela, it's its own category of tobacco. Like you can have a Nicaraguan Candela, you can, it's like a Maduro, you know.
Yeah.
You can make any varietal of tobacco a Candela. I mean, hell, like pipe tobacco, I'm sure you could probably do a Candela
Imagine.
pipe tobacco, right?
I mean, technically, I mean, you could just, I mean, pipe tobacco is really determined by you shred it, and all of a sudden it's pipe tobacco. I mean, that's the big difference.
But I think we need to talk to Kaz next week.
Well, it's also typically light tobacco versus dark tobacco.
You're right, but you can mix those. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's not like
It's
a
not
hard
common though.
thing.
That's what I'm saying.
But you know, as I'm sitting here listening to everybody, I realize that, you know, horrible host that I am, I haven't asked Talia at all
Yeah.
who enjoys cigars. You know what she thinks about the cigar. We talked to her about
Talia
about
has
the
the
drink,
floor.
but like, what's your thoughts on the cigar so far? The pairing. This wasn't what we planned.
No, it
Are you
wasn't.
still happy with it? Because your big thing is,
Yes.
if it takes away from my whiskey, it sucks.
When I first, because I smoked the cigar, I took like quite a few puffs of it before I drank the whiskey because I wanted to taste the cigar first, and I was like worried. 'Cause I was tasting the cigar and I'm worried. I'm like, oh no, like I feel like some of the flavors might match up to what, like it might be the spice and the spice, like it might be a little, because you know me, I like things to be a little more contradictory with my flavors, like sweet and spice.
Sweet spice.
So I was a little bit
Spicy,
worried.
sweetie.
I'm not gonna lie. But when I started drinking the whiskey, it mellowed out the cigar while keeping the flavor. And then it brought out, which is funny, because I don't really usually care about tasting notes, but sometimes I like to read up on it so that I can see what you're supposed to pick up from it. And I saw licorice as part of the tasting note, and I was like, I've never once tasted licorice in this whiskey ever. But now I almost get a little hint of it with smoking the cigar.
Now
so
that you
it's
say
funny.
that, I'm like getting it.
It's funny that what a cigar can bring out in a whiskey and vice versa.
I hate
So
licorice.
I know, I do too, but it's not like I'm drinking ouzo right now, you know what I
I
mean?
know,
There's just
right?
like that teeny tiny little like hint of it. And
I'll
it
go
does
with
not
banana.
bother
I'm
me.
happy with banana.
I know, I don't know. It's funny, I might be the only one who's not bananas like nope for me. But I do enjoy it. So I was pleasantly surprised because at first I was a little bit worried.
Yeah, I think the pairing's been great.
I do.
To be honest,
It made me like the cigar a hell of a lot more. No, like
Yeah.
for real.
I don't know. Like I'm saying, the pairing is freaking on
Yeah.
point.
And
It's
it didn't
on
take away from the
No.
whiskey for me. So
That's awesome.
So, I mean, do
Barney's,
you
nobody
guys-
can take credit for it because it was all done blind.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Candela is something on the market? I mean, I know Hooks had it was like a year ago, but you guys had the Fuente 858
858.
Candelas. Like, how did those do?
They eventually sold, and but it was a slow-moving thing.
I mean,
And
what's the reasoning behind them? I mean, I don't know why people don't really like Candela.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that over the past 30, 40 years, since it was popular, I think American tastes have changed. And so the kind of taste and flavor,
We've indoctrinated McDonald's. We want friggin' sweet
Well, I'm wondering if it's
and,
kind
and,
of
and fatty and saturated. And Candela was like a bitter taste, and it just like got pushed to the wayside. It was considered like unfinished,
well, there
so
was
it's-
a problem. If I remember right from talking
disease.
to Julio Aroa, there was like a blue mold that kind of wiped out several crops of what was used for Candela.
It was
And
too
so
much of a risk, yeah.
And it became too much of a risk, and so they went to making the Connecticut shade, which has now dominated the market. Between advances in technology with growing the plants, harvesting the plants and processes that can go along with it. Farmers love the Candela thing because the process of harvesting to finishing aging so you can roll it is less than a week. So what would normally take
A month.
a month to 6 weeks before you can even start thinking about it, if you could say, hey, I need some more Candela, and within a week they could have the tobacco ready to start rolling. There's no aging that goes along with it. It's a high heat process that happens over several days. That's what kind of locks the green in there. You can get the barn, in some cases up to 165 degrees but then it's locked in and it's ready to go. And so, when I was down at the Aladino factory and we were like, we ordered,
Gotta do that.
and I'll again, a little bit, I know we're talking about Alec Bradley, but here's a little teaser here. When we talk about the Aladino Candela, only stores who sent tobacconists to their farm tour this year get that. So there's only about 10 stores in the country that are going to be trying this cigar. And so we're kind of the test market for it. And, one of the questions was, what if we need more? And Julio was like, well, it's only about 72 hours to finish the process. I'll get you some. It'll take about 2 weeks from start to finish and get it to your store. So, but that's a huge turnaround. And so farmers love that, that there's not this big aging process that goes along with things. So,
So I guess, I kind of asked the question because is it people think because it's not, say, aged as long that it's not as high quality? Because we had this conversation last week with Scotch,
yes.
where, just because it's a higher age statement doesn't mean you're going to like it more.
Well, Ocean's kind of proved that, right?
Ocean, or even because Ocean's is only, that's a little bit different because they got the hyper aging on the
Well,
tip.
that's what I mean, hyper aging.
Right,
So
but
all they did was move the barrel. Who'd have thought that if
Moved
you
it
moved
in
the
an
barrel,
environment, right.
you would have the liquor
Agitating the-
contact
Yes.
more with the wood.
I wonder what would happen if they took a barrel of whiskey.
And just put it on like a vibrator.
Put
or
it-
something.
All right, Dave, let's make it more rational.
a shaker.
Like a paint shaker thing.
Yeah.
And just like shook it on one of those paint mixers for a week. Would you have like the equivalent of like 12-year-old booze on there after
I mean, yeah, probably.
that?
So
I don't want to hear about
I think-
vibrating.
I'm gonna
till you
bring
make
it
it.
back a little bit here. I'm gonna bring it
we
back
can
a little
we
bit.
can twerk it.
I'm gonna take a step out of Spencer as we go
Talia
down the hall.
is never sitting
So-
next to you again.
Ever.
So
You're welcome.
Is the seat vibrating over there?
I don't know what's happening over here.
So I guess
Gyrating.
my comparison to
Dave have his
in my
little wee
opinion
vibe going over there.
Hey now.
to Candela when it comes to spirits would be like, when I first started drinking scotch, I found that I liked the peat. So I started drinking Wee Beastie Ogbeg, which is a 5-year age scotch, opposed to their
Happy
Coraline.
Beastie.
A bad hangover.
Little
killed
wee
that.
beastie.
But I was a huge fan of Wee Beastie, and it's a 5-year age scotch opposed to the Ogbeg Coraline, which is 10-year age.
Yeah.
So it's still very peaty, but the 10-year is a little bit more, subsided.
Wee beady.
So I think that's kind of the thing with Candela, as people look at it, it's more bitter and aggressive, I think people would say, where like the Wee Beastie again is more bitter and aggressive. It has more of those like smoky leather kind of notes to it. So, and the thing is, when you look at like the Cigar Geek, the tobacconist stuff, like, you go back to the
Baconist.
flavor profile on what people look for when they're blending a cigar, and you have like sweet, sour, salty, spicy, and then the fourth, flavor in your palate's kind of a mix of all of them, and it's called umami, which is savory. Like when, like the 858 Fuente Candela, I think is a phenomenal cigar because, the Candela itself is going to bring that bitterness to it. And historically, Dominican tobacco is more of like a sweet, leather, salty tobacco. So, leather can be categorized a little bit as kind of bitter umami. But, Dominican tobacco typically doesn't have bitterness to it. So when you put a Candela cigar wrapper in a Dominican, blended cigar, it hits that umami stage for me. And that cigar was just completely perfect. Like, it had that nice sweetness to it, and then it had like that nice kind of like grassy kind of bitterness to it. It was a very well blended cigar, and I think that a Candela cigar can really be utilized in today's market to hit that. But I think when it comes to the consumer end of things,
You think they
You-
just
you
need
run
to be
in-
educated about it?
well, and that's the thing. I guess that's why, like,
Imagine it-
I think Aladino is doing exactly what needs to be done for Candela, because you had tobacconists go to their farm and learn about the product and see it. I'm
Right.
sure you guys witnessed how they made it, or at least
Yep.
the process behind it.
You know what I'd like to
So,
see?
what better people
No.
to push this kind of test product than people that were actually there and educated about it? So, I'm curious to see how Aladino pulls this off, because like, I really think there is. I mean, clearly there used to be a market for Candela, and now, Connecticut Shades kind of dominated that. But when it comes to, like the big things a consumer looks for is a lot of them, for the most part, looks for price point. That's the first thing. The price tag is the first thing they look at. Like, if they want to spend $10, you could show them anything more than 10. They're not going to even look at what the cigar is. They see the price tag, and then it's going to be the aesthetics of it, and then ultimately it's going to be the profile, right? So when you have a Candela cigar, typically it's going to be a cheaper wrapper because it doesn't have that hands-on, long aging process. And then aesthetically, that's where you kind of have to have a tobacconist there for you, because this is
How sweet
green.
is
Like,
that? Right.
why is it green? Right, and then the flavor, which I think for the most part, a Candela cigar that's well blended is going to deliver on that front. So I think it's going to look good for step one, having the price point. Step two is going to be that educated tobacconist kind of guiding them through what this cigar is and why you should try it. And I think the cigar, like I say, most of the time is going to speak for itself, and then they're going to enjoy it. So I really do like what Aladino's doing with how they're introducing this to the market.
Now, let me break off from that for just a second, because a number of us have smoked
Smoke
glasses.
the glass, right? How,
Oh my
do
God,
it.
Pat,
how
do it.
amazing
Do
is
it.
that?
Now, here's the
Smoke.
thing. Here's the thing I want to say. As I'm looking at the smoke, as I'm swirling it around, I need to know if people back me up, or if I'm just like old and
Blowing
colorblind, just blowing smoke. It looked to me like there was like almost like a greenish tinge to it.
I don't know about that.
Yellowish, maybe?
It
But-
was, it was not normal. It wasn't the normal kind of coloring going on, but there was this
Wow, I
yellowish,
didn't notice that.
Almost
greenish-
like an amber, like
So,
hue.
Dan, are you saying it looks like the color of your beard?
Oh, wow.
Well,
Oh, jeez.
I do live in the estrogen palace. It's gotten white a lot faster than the rest of it. But like as I'm doing this again, it does have this kind of odd color
To me, it like when
It is
you
different,
turn
yeah.
the glass when the smoke's in, if you look at the rim, like when the light hits it,
You
there's
look
a
at the
kind of a
rim job?
green
Yeah,
shade
it
to
It
is.
does, right?
Yep.
It's not
see
just
that.
me.
No, it is not just you.
And but the smoking the glass and you take the sip of it,
Oh my
it's
God.
amazing.
It's
right?
like straight up honey.
Right? It's
is-
hyper sweet.
Uh,
Right?
But
Yeah.
like not in a
Not in a negative
desserty,
way. No.
bad way. Yeah.
No. It's freaking amazing. Oh my
Like
gosh.
wow.
wow.
But it's
Wowzers.
strange to me
Wow.
that the color of the
The
tobacco
color, yeah, that was neat.
is actually, there's this light. It's not
Like a
super
tinge.
obvious, but the
Very
smoke has this very slight greenish tinge to
Mm-hmm.
it, and it's very interesting.
My keyboard.
Sorry, what
No,
you were
that was
saying was
cool.
great, Pat, but I had to say something
is
before it got away from me.
That's perfect because we were about to say, like, smoke the glass. Like, are we just crazy over here? Did it really change the flavor profile?
How
of
did it do
everything?
it for you? Did it change it?
It did.
How so?
I mean, like,
This is
right off
one
the
of those
bat, it's
verbal
interesting.
podcasts, so-
because- No, I don't use words.
Yeah, she just buried his pockets.
Yeah.
So
Who's
for those
next?
of you who are just
Who's
listening, you just missed everything. Wow! Oh my God, Bree, you're coming back.
It is kind of weird though, because just like the pairing, you have that like. At first, you don't even think about it. You're like, this is just enjoyable. It is what it is. But as you start to think about it more, it does go back to that enjoyable sweetness. Like you have the sweetness there in a weird way. I don't know if anyone else is getting this. I'm getting more salt from the cigar.
I'm getting some salt from it.
I'm getting like a little bit more of the caramel coming through on
Is
the
it
whiskey.
salty Mazik?
It's so salty, Mazik. You don't even know.
I thought you were trying to,
Salty
I really thought you were trying to say mesquite at first.
Me too. I was like, no. I was like, he doesn't mean
He was trying to say viscous.
This is- no, it really is unbelievable though, that
is,
flavor
yeah.
of that whiskey when
When you smoke
when you
the glass,
smoke it.
it really does make a difference.
On that note, though, I kind of had another
Okay.
question
I wish I had my
slash
phone, that's a
observation.
I wish I had a
Kind of.
picture.
All right,
going-
now that's very artificially green, Dave. Come on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's like
It still
cheating.
looks cool.
I just love brain cells.
Yep. There we go. There goes. There goes three more.
Bree, bring us back.
Yeah.
So anyway, going back to the whole Candela topic and marketing, just because of something that I observed being at TPE, going back into like the marketing of certain things. You know how with Jefferson's, it's like, oh, it was aged on a ship, it was this, it was that. Like this was aged for 10 years, and this cask, that cask. This tobacco was aged for however long. A lot of the
3
people that
days.
were coming from the other side of things, not from the tobacco industry, the first thing they would come over and ask you as a tobacco vendor was, how long was this product aged for? What was it aged in? And
Right.
it almost like, it's kind of like a clarifying moment because you're like, does it make us look bad to the outside market that, you know, not every single cigar is aged in something or for an excessive amount of time? So it really makes you think about how deep marketing goes and how much
Yeah.
how long something is aged for, whether it's a cigar or a whiskey, really plays into the actual product versus how much of it is just marketing.
Perception.
Perception. Yeah.
But I would say that was an important takeaway, just realizing that a lot of outside consumers do look at that stuff when they're thinking about taking your product in.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. The thing with what makes a good cigar is it's not only the wrapper. You know, like I think
Correct.
the wrapper is definitely the most expensive part of the blend, but like, you know, the cigars that really speak to me are ones that are very consistent and, you know, like there's so many, you know, I'll take Connecticut shades on the market, but you know, you can smoke, you know, 5 different Connecticut shades and there's going to be a favorite there, and the difference between that's going to be
Yeah.
what's in the cigar. And that's why, for me, I mean, you know, I had conversations with people this past couple weeks. I'm not going to say their names on the show, but, you know, about the current market with a lot of Nicaraguan cigars. And typically, you go through fermentation, whether it's first, second, or sometimes third fermentation, And then once the cigar is being rolled, like it sits in the aging room for maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and then it gets shipped right out. Like there's not a whole lot of post-fermentation aging going on in the market right now. With, and there's
There are
exceptions to that
exceptions,
too.
yeah,
But like a lot of the high-demand cigars are just getting pushed out, right? So that's why, like when it comes to like Candela, to me, it's a lot of it really is the care that's being put into the filler tobaccos. And, like consumers come and, they'll say, in your case, like how long has it been aged for? It matters to an extent, but I think like 3 manufacturers can take the same leaf of tobacco and they all ferment it differently. It's going to taste different. The same tobacco is going to taste different. So the fermentation process to me is really that sexy kind of like, this is what like our expression as tobacco is going to be. Right, then the aging is, cigars, obviously cigars, they age and they get different. Some people prefer that. Me, I like to get like assaulted by my cigar. I like to be nice and spicy. So it's all very subjective. But, for the most part, like the aging process
Like a Kizik commercial or something.
is,
You're not feeling assaulted?
yeah, the aging process needs to be like the secondary
icing on the-
priority.
the
Like
icing
the
on the
icing
cake.
on the cake. The difference between like a core line cigar and maybe if you want to put out like a $20 cigar or is like a top shelf cigar, but routinely for most consumers, it's going to be like what that everyday smoke is, right? So it's going to be those cigars that fit in that category of very good fermentation. They roll a cigar, they keep it on the shelf maybe 2 weeks, and they ship it out immediately. That's going to be your average consumer. So that's why I think the Candela could be utilized more, because if you have good filler, again, like my 858 Fuente example, like if you have really well-blended filler tobaccos and a nice binder that helps it combust properly, because again, Candela to me, it's as delicate as your shade wrappers. And if it burns the proper way, I think it's going to be it's going to have a spot in the market because it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be a consistent cigar and a good cigar. So like from Bree's example of TPA and the aging, like that's just one, again, like I always like bring it back to the B&Ms, like that's why I think like the headliner in the industry is a B&M, because you can go online and buy something, it's kind of you're just shooting for the moon, and if you like it, whatever. But in a B&M, like you have an educated tobacconist that can tell you these things, and then you try things that you would never try before, and then that's when you decide whether or not you like it, which for the most part, I think from my experience here at Twins, it's typically they like it because we don't misguide people based on what they tell us.
Right.
But that, and again, like echoing Aladino, like that's why, like as a Candela fan, I love how Aladino's executing it, because they brought people that cared enough to go to the factory and learn about their product. And like, who better than and they're all B&Ms. Yeah, they're all B&Ms.
Yep.
Who like, this is something that if you release this thing online, unless you discounted the ever living hell out of it, you're not going to sell it.
Right.
But if you have these 10 selected people that went to the factory, I guarantee you this is going to be a successful cigar, 100%. I haven't even smoked it yet, but I'm just the way they're executing it.
I can't wait for you to smoke it back, because I smoked it at the factory. Freaking awesome.
But one more comment that I'll say about Candela is I do want to try the wasabi cigar, because that's a Lancero Candela.
Yes.
I've never had.
Lanceros, I'm so excited.
I have never had a Candela Lancero.
I think
Tachiwahe make one? Don't they have-
not. I mean,
And
they may have. I don't
called
know
this
of it.
wasabi.
It's called the wasabi. It's made by Espinosa, and honestly, like I
It's like
really
the perfect name for
like.
it.
I want to try it so bad, because
Right.
you get
I
all
hope
that
it's
wrapper.
spicy.
Like it's like.
I love
So
wasabi.
I'm sidetracking now, but like
I
I love
love wasabi.
Candela, and I hope that Aladino kind of sets the foundation for it to be introduced back to the market.
It'd be cool to do like a Candela challenge here, or if we can get in like
Candela
almost every
challenge.
Candela that's currently on the market, create like some kind of pack for it,
Candela pack.
and
The C-pack.
The Green Monster Pack.
Yeah, we can totally Bostonize this.
Yeah. Just can't advertise it.
right at the top of the market.
All right.
Call
So
it the Grouchy pack.
what's our final thoughts here on the Alec Bradley cigar here? The Filthy Hooligan, Black Market Filthy Hooligan by Alec Bradley.
It's going. It's going fast.
It's going.
Yeah.
It's going. Are you glad you smoked it, Bree?
I want another one, honestly. I'm
Okay,
gonna go
good.
upstairs and buy like 3 more tomorrow.
Yeah.
Very good.
With some more Lustau.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pat.
Yeah, it's a really like the black market in general is a good cigar. Again, that Panama tobacco and the filler, like like the Edge uses it. Like I love that tobacco, and obviously, if you want to go based on cigar aficionado, apparently a lot of people love the black market. But it's one of those staple blends in the industry. It's a good cigar, and then you put the Candela Barber pole on it, and then me being a Candela guy, it just introduces a lot more nuances to the blend. So it's honestly a great cigar. I don't think it's just like a once a year. It's green. Take a picture with it and go do what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth trying. It's a little bit different, and then the glory of having a Barber pole is that you're not going to get all Candela, so you can kind of introduce
Smoke it with a
yourself.
Shamrock Shake.
You can introduce yourself to the wrapper and then taste Candela and then see whether or not it's for you. So it's a good introduction cigar in a Candela.
Talia.
Yeah. I'm very much enjoying it. The flavors are still strong, but it's really, really, really smooth. Like, it's not bothering me when I'm drinking the whiskey. It's not giving me that funky burn in the back of the throat where I can't taste the whiskey for a minute. It's just, it's pairing perfectly. And kind of to build off what Pat was saying about liquor, Irish whiskey is not just for March, everybody. Year round. All right? It's
St.
like,
Patty's Day every day.
yeah, you know what I mean? When a nice, especially the Redbreast, which is that single pot still, it's that real high quality, it's really smooth. I mean, you know me, I'm an Irish whiskey girl. I don't do the bourbons for much, but you don't just have to
Tequila.
drink it around this time of year. It's a good year-round kind of drink, and it's pairing beautifully with the cigar.
So I think if you bring Middleton with you every time, we can drink Irish whiskey.
Ooh, Middleton, I know. Honestly, I would drink Redbreast over Middleton. I would.
Have we even done Middleton?
Yeah, we did it
Yeah.
at the PD Blinders last year.
Oh, well,
I don't
see,
know if we
that's
did it
not
on
where
the
I
show.
am. So, no.
Have we done it on the
We
show?
have not done it.
No.
No, we have
boy.
not done Middleton.
Oh.
The pressure's on.
Next time.
Yep, next time.
Next week on Days Blowing Smoke. No, I'm blown away. This is definitely my favorite pairing.
What do you think of the cigar?
I already said it. I'm saying it again. I repeat what I say.
Vibrator.
No, no. Keep your good vibrations to yourself.
Side note, on that comment, do you know that this is completely side note, but the Blackened whiskey is actually, they play Metallica music when it's
Yeah,
in the barrels.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That's what
Yep.
makes it special.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was
It's
interesting.
not the aging, it's the
Yep.
music. It's the playing.
Baby. It vibrates the barrel and makes it all touch the wood.
Yeah, baby,
So it
yeah.
hyper ages.
Yeah, this one goes to 11.
We've got Oceans and then we've got Metallica.
Boys, Metallica's not British. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Sounds
know
like an
what- I know
Ozzy
what's going on.
Osbourne.
Yeah, right.
What's happening?
Everyone needs a little spinal tap. That's what I say. All right, well, that's all for Not Just Blunt Smoke tonight. Thanks for being with us. We'll be here next week, next Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Don't be late, and that's Not Just Blowing Smoke, people.